that led to children being more at risk when they walk to school. So what can be done about that time when it is really dark until kids are walking to school?
Yeah, I think the reality for most British Columbians in November is that they're going to work in the dark, their kids are going to school in the dark. This change today actually brings us in line with an area of the Northeast that stays on mountain time year-round, Fort St. John area. So in the north of our province, they're already there. In the south of our province, in Creston, it's the same thing. They're already there. So these are communities in British Columbia that have already made this change that we're coming in line with. They haven't seen those negative impacts, and they've seen significant benefits from getting an extra hour of light at the end of the day when the majority of human activity is taking place. Having more light on the roads for drivers at the end of the day, coming home from work, and we'll have the impact, we hope, of reducing collisions and ensuring that what little light we do have in British Columbia in those short days during the winter is concentrated where the majority of activity is taking place.
Premier, the Globe and Mail was also reporting that there's evidence that Indian officials in the Vancouver consulate had ties to the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Have you been able to review any of that evidence, and how does it impact, your trip to India, the Prime Minister's trip to India, and the also report that India is no longer interfering with our politics? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously profoundly disturbing information. It was disturbing when the Prime Minister stood up in the Parliament and made the announcement that he did. I assume that he didn't make that announcement based on no information at all. This matter is in front of the criminal courts in British Columbia, which is where it belongs. There is nobody who is above the law in British Columbia. Those responsible will be held accountable. We have faith in our justice system and our prosecutors and our judges to be able to hold people to account regardless of their position. And we support that process carrying forward and holding those accountable who should be held accountable.
Oh, hi, Premier. Wanted to get your reaction because I expect the opposition and others will be skeptical of the timing of this very populist announcement. We know it was 93% of people supported the idea, but your government's come under significant criticism and scrutiny for the budget that affects pocketbooks all across the province. What do you say to folks who are skeptical of the timing of today's announcement and feel like it was maybe even exploitive of the kids that were dancing around and that kind of thing? The reality is that every once in a while, our government will try to do something that is popular. The goal here is to hear British Columbians. They have spoken out. They want to get rid of the time change. It supports their kids, it supports their families. This has been a time of difficult and hard conversations for many people, and not just in British Columbia, around the world. But in British Columbia, our response to that has been, we're going to stand on our own 2 feet. We're going to make decisions that are best for us. We're going to look after our province. We're going to push hard, and whether that's around economic growth or whether that's around a decision like daylight savings time, I feel in some ways, we're more free to be able to make those decisions than we have been in the past. And I'm hopeful, ultimately, in terms of ease of commerce and some of the other reasonable concerns that people will have down the West Coast, that Congress ultimately makes the right decision here and lets the Western states follow us. But regardless, we have to do what's best for British Columbians. Follow-up, Rob? Yeah, I just wanted on that, how concerned are you that we're not going to be in line with places like California, we're Hollywood North? And if you're able to also kind of respond to your thoughts on the attacks on Iran, whether, the Prime Minister has said he supports what the U.S. has done. There's Iranian Canadians who are quite happy with what's happened, but there's also been a lot of concern about the way it unfolded. Can you weigh in on that too?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big reasons why we've been hesitant to make this change is trying to stay in line with the states, the Western states, who are major trading partners of ours. But it's pretty clear to me that they're stuck. They've passed their own legislation in most cases. They're trying to get the Congress to enable them to make this change. We'd like to support them in that. Someone's got to go first, and I think it's an opportunity for us to do that. And my hope is that this reignites the debate in the United States, and that Congress looks to improving the quality of life for people right down the west coast of North America. But as the Premier of British Columbia, I got to look after British Columbians, and this is something British Columbians overwhelmingly want. In terms of Iran and the war in Iran and the retaliation by Iran across the broader Middle East, and the loss of life and the chaos that has flowed from that, our thoughts are with all of the civilians, the people just going about living their daily lives in the Middle East, who are facing the realities and the horrors of war. Certainly for the people of Iran, we pray for peace and freedom for them and relief from the tyranny of the dictatorship that they've been living under. And for everybody across the Middle East, hope for a quick end to this and safety for those that didn't ask to be involved in this.
Next, we'll head to Rob Shaw from Check News.
Just another question about EB savings time. The survey that you're mentioning with overwhelming support in 2019 came with 54% of people who said they only support this if it's done with other jurisdictions. And there were several groups, the Vancouver Airport, for example, that said this is going to unnecessarily confuse travelers, business groups that said they didn't support it. What are you saying to those groups who suggested that this was not doable without everyone doing it at once?
Yeah, I think the situation on the ground has changed since 2019. I think that British Columbians were very interested, as was I, was Attorney General at the time, that we brought in the legislation. John Horgan as Premier and then I as Premier, trying hard to stay in line with the United States, trying hard to work in partnership with them, even understanding that the majority of British Columbians want this to change. The situation on the ground has shifted. We're enabled to be a little bit more selfish in our decisions, what's best for British Columbians. And it's clear that British Columbians know what's best for them. They want to have that extra hour of sunlight at the end of the day. They want to have a little bit more time with the sun out with their families at the end of a working day. It adds an extra month on either end to the shoulder seasons for hiking and biking and outdoor activities. It's a very important thing in British Columbia. It's a balance. All of these decisions have puts and takes. There are people who are rightly going to raise concerns about how we make sure that business has time to align. We've got 8 months here between now and when this decision takes effect to ensure that that's reality. And an important thing that some British Columbians may not know, but is certainly reality in the Northeast, a significant portion of the province is already doing this. And we are bringing ourselves into line with other British Columbians. For 8 months of the year, we'll all be on the same time zone. And for the remaining 4 months, the vast majority of us will all be on the same time zone for the first time in a generation. And so ensuring we're in line with British Columbians, supporting British Columbians, made this the right decision to make.
Follow-up, Rob?
The government put out a joint statement with the Cowichan Nation today that I was just hoping you could explain to us, because it talks about not putting private property on the table as part of negotiations, but you still have the court ruling that's outstanding, and you've mentioned in the past a desire to appeal and different things. So could you just sort of explain the significance of what the joint statement is today?
Absolutely. So the court has required us to enter into negotiations with the Cowichan as part of the judgment. We are doing that in good faith. We are also pursuing our appeal and pursuing a stay of the original decision. What the joint statement says is hopefully reassurance to property owners in the claim area. It says that both the Cowichan and the government agree that the ownership of these properties, the ownership of the homes, is not in question, that people are able to use their homes, enjoy their homes, buy and sell their homes, that they fully own their homes. They're not being put on the table either in the negotiations or in the court action. And that's a very significant statement and an important statement. And I'm grateful to the Cowichan that we were able to provide that assurance, which is something that those homeowners and business owners have really wanted.
Next, we'll head to Alec Lazenby from the Vancouver Sun.
Hi, Premier. The BC RCMP have announced charges against 3 foreign nationals in the extortion, on charges of extortion. 2 of them are in custody, but one of them is free but is wanted on a Canada-wide warrant, was arrested in Red Deer and then released. Just your reaction to the news of the charges, but also that one of the suspects is not in custody.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I want to express my appreciation to the police for the work that they've done in February to see a decline in extortion-related shootings from 10 in January to 1 in February, and ultimately our goal, of course, is 0, and the elimination of this offense is very important. So I want to thank police for that and encourage them to continue the work that they're doing to respond quickly and meet the expectations of the community. Absolutely vital. In terms of the charges that were laid, these are the first extortion charges that we've seen, charges using the offense of extortion. So these are important precedents that will be set in terms of investigations and prosecutions of individuals alleged to be involved in this. We'll be following these cases very closely. Obviously, it's frustrating for many people to know that there's an individual at large, but this individual's photograph is everywhere, and if anyone has information to assist police in a prompt arrest, that will be an assistance to people across the country. We're going to continue to make sure that the police have the resources they need, that they are working in the interests of the community with our oversight committee that we've set up to ensure that they're responsive to what we're hearing from the front lines, and ultimately working with the federal government to get the Senate to pass the relevant bills around immigration and the criminal code so that we can keep these folks in jail and prosecute them for this terrorism that they're perpetrating on the community.
Yes, you said last week that the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, had agreed to meet with you. Is there any update on when that might be? And is, the federal AI Minister Solomon, is he joining you for that meeting, or do you have any more details to provide?
Yes, we have a tentative time for the meeting this week, and when we can provide additional details, we will.
Next, we'll head to Wolfgang Deppner from the Canadian Press.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my question, Premier. Question regarding the time change. Just to build on Rob's question, how much consultation did you do with the business community prior to today's announcement? So we heard the concerns from the business community years ago. Obviously, they haven't changed, but to some degree, you can make the argument that you've sort of blindsided the business community a little bit. Can you sort of talk about the pre-consultation you had with the business community prior to today's announcement? Thank you.
Yeah, sure, Wolf. We've been talking about this for 6 years. There's 8 months notice before the change takes place, making sure that there was lots of time to understand all the issues. We also had another jurisdiction actually do this change before us, the Yukon, followed up with them about what they saw, what the implications were. In addition, we reached out to all of the business organizations that we had reached out to in the original consultation in advance of Cabinet considering this. Are there any other issues that we should be aware of? Any other concerns? Has anything changed since 2019? To make sure that we had a full array of information. So not only the most comprehensive consultation ever done in British Columbia, more than 200,000 people participating, 6 years of notice, 8 months of notice before the change takes place, another outreach. Has anything changed? This has been one of the longest debated and considered decisions perhaps in the history of British Columbia, and we are finally here, probably to the great relief of most British Columbians.
Wolf?
Yes, thank you. Back to the Cowichan statement mentioned earlier. Explain to me the logic of how you plan to reconcile having negotiations with the very group with which you're involved in a legal dispute. How much, again, can you sort of talk about the logic of that, and how much of an attempt is this to sort of avoid a protracted legal struggle? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Wolf. I mean, it is complicated. We're in the courtroom, we're adversarial, we're head-to-head, we're appealing, we disagree with the trial decision, we're seeking a stay of the trial decision. But at the end of the day, the provincial government's not going anywhere, the Cowichan First Nation isn't going anywhere. We're going to have a relationship after this case. We have to talk, and in fact, the court has required us to talk. What is a pleasant development, a good news development out of this conversation has been a joint statement that reassures homeowners and business owners that neither side, the Cowichan nor the provincial government, has any intent that their homes be implicated, that their businesses be implicated in this, that they are free to enjoy their properties, that their homes that they own, they will continue to own, that their titles, they will continue to have title to their homes, they'll be able to enjoy them, sell them, buy them, mortgage them, and so on. That joint statement, if nothing else comes out of the conversation with Cowichan, that's very positive for these homeowners and business owners who have been seriously worried about the implications of that decision that we're appealing. But hopefully we're able to find a path forward that works for everybody. And we're going in good faith to try to find that path while we pursue our appeal in the court.
Next, we'll head to Andrew McLeod from the Tyee.
Hi, Premier. In December, your office fired somebody who is alleged to have leaked sensitive and classified information in a previous job in Ottawa. They worked here about a year before they were fired. What assurance do you have that there weren't similar concerns here, or were there similar concerns here about leaking information?
We don't have any information about the leaking of any information from the provincial government, either in relation to this case or otherwise. I can't discuss any of the details of this matter because it is before the courts and involves a human resources matter, but just as an assurance to British Columbians, we don't have any information that any government documents at all in relation to this or otherwise have been leaked.
Follow up, Andrew.
Yeah, on a different topic, one of the things your government did in cleaning up from the Health Ministry firings was give the Merit Commissioner responsibility for assessing terminations for cause afterwards to make sure they were done properly. Now you're getting rid of the Merit Commissioner. Part of the assurance to people affected by the Health Ministry firings was it was supposed to help make sure that sort of thing never happened again. What would you say to those people who were affected at this point?
Well, certainly it's crucial that the public service both conducts itself in hiring and in firing properly. The functions of the Merit Commissioner will be moved into the Public Service Agency within the Ministry of Finance. The Merit Commissioner reviewed more than 250 different hirings and firings in the last year, didn't find any issues related to those and concerning partisanship or the core assignments of the Merit Commissioner. And so our goal is to make sure that we're maintaining that record and ensuring that we're protecting British Columbians while finding efficiencies across government.
Next, we'll head to Les Lane from the Times Colonist.
Thank you. You said at the outset, Premier, on the Musqueam announcement that you hadn't been briefed on it yet. I find that a bit startling. Did the feds not brief you, or do you mean you just haven't gotten caught up on it? Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, sure, Les. To the best of my understanding, the provincial government was not briefed at the political level on this. I can't say whether or not at this stage whether any public service members had line of sight to it. I certainly didn't. But with that said, I'm not surprised that the feds were involved in these conversations. They've been involved with these conversations with Musqueam for a long time. The Sparrow case that found that there were Indigenous fishing rights came from Musqueam. Musqueam has a title claim that's about a decade old that they filed claiming against the federal government. And so engaging in these conversations is entirely appropriate. I think the lesson the federal government is learning over the weekend is that there is a heightened environment for these conversations and these agreements right now, and they have to go above and beyond. This is a lesson that the provincial government is in no position to lecture people on. We're doing our own work to make sure we're bringing people along on this as well. And we'll be engaging with the feds to understand the implications of the decision for the provincial government while recognizing the importance of this work to be done.
Follow up, Les?
When we debated time a few years ago in the legislature, Andrew Weaver had a point that the closer we make our construct of time to the actual elevation of the sun at noon, the healthier it is for everyone. I think on December 21st next year, the solar altitude maximum will be at 1 o'clock our time rather than noon, which he said puts people off some scientific way that I don't fully understand. But what do you make of that? That daylight savings time isn't necessarily the healthiest way to change.
Okay. Well, being as generous to Mr. Weaver as possible, which is always my policy, my best understanding of this is that there are two different schools of thought about which permanent state of time is better. Whether it's better to have an hour of extra light at the end of the day or better to have an hour of extra light in the morning. If in a perfect world where everybody got up early and went to bed early, there's no question that an extra hour of sun in the morning would be a good idea. In the world that we actually live in, the vast majority of human activity takes place towards the end of the day. That's when you're home from work, that's when you're with your family, that's when you have an opportunity to go biking or hiking or get outside. And so for British Columbians, having that extra hour of leisure time with the sun at the end of the day, an extra month on either end, is a very significant difference for their health. It might be different in the United States as you get further south, but for us in British Columbia, when you're already waking up in the dark and taking your kids to school in the dark, getting an extra hour of sunlight where you're still in the dark when you're getting up and taking your kids to school doesn't make as much sense as it does to get that extra hour at the end of the day.
Next, we'll head to Emily Joveski from Vista Radio.
Hey, Premier, thanks for taking my question. I'm wondering, there are signs that U.S. states are looking to make this change as well. Hasn't happened yet. So I'm wondering what the impact could be if those states choose not to do so for potentially years or indefinitely, and we continue with this misalignment.
So the functional difference is that for 4 months of the year, British Columbia will be on 1 hour time difference from the western U.S. states all the way down Oregon, California, Washington State. That's the functional difference. 8 months of the year will be on the same time. And my hope is that the governors of those states get their wish, that their legislation is effective, that Congress allows them to make this change, and that they're able to come in line with British Columbia.
My other question is regarding a public inquiry into Tumbler Ridge. So we had some federal conservatives calling for a public inquiry over the weekend, I believe, and I'm wondering if you would support it being a federal inquiry or if you're more in favor of a joint provincial federal inquiry, if it does come to that.
We're going to get the answers for British Columbians out of Tumbler Ridge that they want and need. Questions around mental health services and the possibility of intervening and preventing this. Was there an opportunity? Is there a way to learn a lesson to stop something like this from happening in the future? Around firearms, which is federal jurisdiction and can sometimes be challenging for the province to inquire into. But where did the guns come from? Why were the guns returned? All those kinds of questions. And then obviously social media and artificial intelligence and the role that both of those had in this incident. What happened? Who knew what when? Were there opportunities to prevent this? What can we learn going forward? Those are areas of federal responsibility, provincial responsibility, police criminal investigation, the coroner's responsibility. At this point, we're allowing the police to complete their work, to provide as much information as they feel they can provide at the conclusion of that work. And then once the prosecutions, if any, that flow from this are complete, we'll be able to move to either a coroner's inquest or a public inquiry or some combination to ensure that all of those questions are answered. It is far from obvious right now what the best approach will be, but what I can assure British Columbians is bottom line, we will get those questions answered for them.
Thank you very much, everyone. That concludes today's event.
Thanks very much.